Ancient Rome didn't conquer the world by chance. It did it with the most fearsome military machine the ancient world had ever seen, the Roman legions. These were men hardened by brutal training, who could march 30 kilometers a day under a scorching sun carrying 20 kilos of gear, and then build a fortified city before nightfall. But what held this machine together wasn't just discipline or pride, it was fear. A deep, abiding terror of the consequences of failure. Today we delve into the dark heart of the Legion to uncover the brutal, often horrifying punishments that kept Roman soldiers in line. This is the price of disobedience in the world's most effective killing machine. To understand Roman military punishment, you must first understand the Roman mindset. The survival of thousands of men on campaign depended on blind, instantaneous obedience to orders. In the chaos of battle, or on a treacherous march through hostile territory, hesitation meant death, not for one man, but for entire units. Therefore, discipline wasn't just important, it was sacred. And the man entrusted with enforcing this divine law was the centurion. This battle-hardened officer, commander of around 80 men, was the absolute ruler of his century. His symbol of authority wasn't just his sword, but the vites, a gnarled vine wood staff he carried always and used often. The concept of a minor offense was almost non-existent in the legions. Every infraction was a crack in the foundation, and cracks had to be hammered shut. Punishments were designed to be swift, public, and humiliating, serving as a stark lesson for everyone. Falling asleep on guard duty was one of the gravest sins. The safety of the entire camp depended on alert sentries. The punishment was death by stoning or clubbing, carried out not by an executioner but by the condemned man's own contubernium, his 8-man tent unit. This brutal practice forced comrades to kill one of their own, binding them together in guilt and ensuring they would never let it happen again. Disobeying an order, laziness, or neglect earned a savage beating with the centurion's vine staff. These weren't slaps on the wrist. They were blows that could break bones, lacerate skin, and leave a soldier permanently scarred, both physically and socially. Theft, stealing from a comrade or the legion's supplies undermined unit cohesion and logistics. Punishments ranged from public floggings to imprisonment, reduction in rank, or the dreaded frumentum, having your wheat ration replaced with barley. Barley was considered animal feed. This was not just a dietary penalty, it was a profound public humiliation, marking you as less than a soldier. For crimes that affected the entire unit, mutiny, mass cowardice, or desertion in the face of the enemy, Rome had a punishment so terrifying, its very name echoes through history. Decimation, meaning removal of a tenth. The process was ritualized brutality. The offending cohort or legion was forced to draw lots. The 10% who drew the unlucky mark were executed by the very hands of their remaining 90% of comrades, who were forced to bludgeon or stone them to death. Those who survived were disgraced, forced to sleep outside the safety of the camp's walls and given rations of barley instead of wheat. This wasn't just about killing guilty men. It was psychological warfare on one's own troops. It was designed to rip out indiscipline at its root by making every single soldier complicit in the horror. A famous historical account occurred under Julius Caesar. When a full legion retreated without orders, the brilliant strategist didn't hesitate. He applied decimation to restore absolute fear and order. The message was clear. The enemy might kill you, but disobedience would guarantee a far more horrific death at the hands of your friends. Why such extreme measures? The Romans operated on a brutal calculus. An army that fears the enemy is weak, but an army that fears its own commanders more than the enemy? That army is invincible. This fear was the glue that held the legions together across thousands of kilometers of frontier. It ensured that when the order was given to advance into a hailstorm of arrows, or to hold a line against a charging horde, every man would stand his ground. The centurion's staff and the threat of decimation were as essential to Roman victory as the gladius or the pilum. This system of extreme punishment existed alongside powerful incentives. For the soldier who obeyed without question, fought with courage, and remained loyal, the rewards were great. A regular salary, campaign bonuses, and after 25 years of service, a generous plot of land or a large cash payment. For auxiliary troops, the ultimate prize was Roman citizenship for themselves and their families. This carrot-and-stick approach, the promise of a prosperous future against the certainty of a brutal death for failure, forged the legionary into the perfect instrument of Roman power. The Roman legionary was a masterpiece of engineering, not of metal, but of flesh and will. He was hardened by brutal training, sustained by a pragmatic diet, and motivated by the promise of reward. But above all, he was controlled by fear, a fear meticulously cultivated by a system that understood that to conquer the world, you first had to conquer the mind of every single soldier. The brutal punishments of the Roman legions were not acts of mindless savagery. They were calculated, cold, and terrifyingly effective tools that built an empire. If you were transported back in time, could you have survived the brutal discipline of a Roman legion? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into the dark side of Roman history, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. And as always, may Mars guide you in battle.